All right, everybody, welcome back to another th- show. Not even episode. We're not even on episodes. We're on shows, right? These live shows. Live shows means right, no editing, unfiltered. You know, either you watch out for what you say, or you just let yourself say whatever you want and see how things plan out, right? But only one of
Yep.
us lives in the U.S., so cancel culture is only pertaining to him in
I
Las
am
Vegas.
Hawaiian and not afraid.
But Canada, I think Canada is just as bad as well, right? With the cancel culture and all that stuff, from what I've
A little
heard.
bit
So,
of that, a
anyways,
bit of a North
yeah,
American situation, yeah.
exactly, right. But anyways, we're not here to talk about cancel culture. We're here to talk about UFC 296. Um, what an incredible event! And it's not even the main card pay per view portion that was incredible. It was more of the prelims, the free fights, which uh, which we're gonna get into probably more than the main card. But yeah, but before we get into that, hop into all of this stuff, discuss everything. Make sure you guys go in the descriptions and download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights. You know what I mean? J Spec had a big year this year on the app and gave away a lot of great prizes. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if he's going to continue doing that, but we'll let J Spec speak about what happened last weekend with Incident anyway.
Well, first off, thanks again to Ensign Inoue for signing lots of cool stuff for me and some gloves to give away, which I did over this weekend, over this event. Congratulations to Ball Guy, most knowledgeable picker over the event, going I believe 9-3, very accurate over the event. And then to James Reese, there was a raffle AI type system going on my timeline. You'll see it, and the AI chose James Reese at random. So those are the two winners. And I just want to say, man, thanks to everybody playing over this year. Thank you to the AllStar. Thank you for this app connecting me with people from around the world. I've literally given prizes, sent prizes because they want it. I'm not giving them; they want it over these challenges. So people in Australia and various parts of the UK, Canada as well, various states of America. I mean, honestly, like connecting with the world and the people, this is amazing. This is the good stuff of technology, man. And we'll have a lot of all the bad stuff to rant about later, but I just want to say thank you to everyone who participated, everybody at the All-Star, to John. Man, this has just been super fun. It's been a blessing. And who knows what comes up in the future, but you know what? I've been a day one fan. I'm not stopping being one tomorrow. So we'll keep messing around. We'll see what happens.
There you go. Perfect, man. And yeah, man, if you guys are on the app, you know what it is. You guys know what the app offers. So hand it to a friend. Give it to a friend as a free gift for 2024. New Year's resolution. Let's say that. All right. So let's get to some of these comments before we jump into the main event. We got Antoine Willis. Yo, what's up, guys? Hope you guys enjoyed the card. Yes, the card was pretty incredible. Young Ju. Yo, Young Ju's got a question already. What was the game plan from Colby? Who does he train with? Okay, so let's just jump into the main event, right? So in the main event, you got Leon Edwards defending his welterweight title against Colby Covington. I'm gonna be transparent, and I thought Colby was gonna be able to go in there and get it done and win the title just off skill for skill. You know what I mean? Just the skill set that they have, and just in my mind, just from what I've seen of Colby. But that did not happen. Colby went in there and fought like he never fights until like maybe the fourth round or the third round, maybe a little bit. In the fifth round, he did a lot better. I don't know if that was a strategy for him to just like see what Leon had for first two rounds. But I think Leon's the wrong guy to go ahead let go ahead in the scorecards and then try to come back on. You know what I mean? He's a very cerebral fighter, right? So Leon, you know what I mean? He goes in there, gets a decision win. That's two decision wins in a row, and then a Hail Mary head kick in the fifth round to win the title. He's been impressive, man, to be honest with you, right? He beat Kamaru Usman, who many people thought was probably on the edge of becoming the greatest welterweight of all time. Beat him twice, finished him once, beat him in the second fight. Close fight, but beat him. This fight, not close at all, right? So the game plan, Dylan, what was it, man, for Colby?
I was trying to figure that out myself. I mean, I guess like my impression was kind of similar to yours in the early goings, like more of like a trying to collect intel on him sort of thing. And I mean, he did even say in the post-fight press conference he credited some amount of that to, the delay, like the ring rust and everything like that. It was, yeah, fairly uncharacteristic performance because a lot of the, discourse around Colby Covington and some of his attributes are centric on his cardio and everything. And didn't really seem to show that. It was like, I think, I have to imagine it'd be one of his lower output fights that he's had so far.
Yeah, he's supposed to be the cardio king, right? He's supposed to be nonstop pace, pressure. We didn't really see that too much in this fight, right? We saw Leon come with the pressure early. I was surprised by that watching it, you know what I mean? Because I felt like Leon, he likes to fight with his back against the fence, against guys that can grapple, and he didn't do that. He flipped the script on Colby. J-Spec, what happened?
Dude, both you guys nailed so much good stuff. The fact of the matter is this: he looked nothing like the same guy we know. You know what? Also, I didn't realize until mid-fight, where someone intelligently brought it up, was he's that shitty magic number in fighting. What is it? 35. It's literally, it's like the lottery. It's like a shitty lottery or something, where right at 35, at any point after that period for a man athlete, it seems like Father Time is just going to show up at any fight from there. It's like you're on notice. It could be 5 years from now, 2 years from now, or last night. Could have been. Could have been. We could have seen what inactivity and time goes by. Now, maybe he was hiding an injury. Maybe he wasn't well. All this stuff we won't know. And because Colby is such a character and says such flamboyant things all the time, that we won't know if it's real or not. So, complicated, eh? But to what was his game plan? I'm not really sure. To the effect of Mr. Edwards, so effective. And like you said, John, flip the script, came out with a great pace, the best pace of, in my opinion, recent memory. Best pace of Leon Edwards fight recent activity for sure. And maybe it was those kicks, maybe the kicks to the body. Somebody said that. I thought that made sense too. A lot of I just want to credit everybody in those spaces because there's so much good stuff that comes at me. I wish I could give everybody credit. But yeah, man, those things all kind of made sense at the time. Speed, size too. Then the wrestling. I mean, there was one part in the fight, you guys remember, where Colby had the advantage in guard, of full guard of Leon. And I'm not really sure exactly what happened, but he just got up. Like he just stood up, and then Edwards was just up. There was like no resistance. He just went from being on the bottom to standing up, and I just found that very interesting. Anyways, Colby was completely neutralized in a fashion that we haven't seen before, and I just have to go more credit to Leon Edwards, a fighter I am not all that enthused about, a fighter that I didn't think was all that good. But man, after just neutralizing Usman the way he did, and now Colby, I think I gotta maybe consider switching my stance. That's my take.
Yeah, it's like you said, the match number 35. Well, when you see that, what I mean, you want to kind of go against the grain and say like, hey, man, it doesn't matter about the age. It just matters about the skill level. The durability. The damage that they've taken. Physically and mentally. Those things. Not about how old they are, right? Because there's guys that have defied the odds, right, of age and all that. But I think this era right now, there is none of that. That era is over. There's not going to be any Randy Couture's anymore. That stuff is done. You know why? Because there's so many guys right now in fighting that will beat the shit out of all these guys that are old. It's just the truth. It's a young man's game. Dylan, what do you think about the age thing? Like 35, what I mean? Colby Covington, this is where he plateaus, right? This is the performance that a lot of people are probably waiting for. Like, when is Colby Covington gonna lose it? And people are using the word washed. Do you believe this?
I mean, it's interesting. I feel like the whole age thing, I mean, ultimately it does exist like on a case by case basis, but sometimes it's even centric on weight division almost, right? Like I feel like guys who are say in the lower weight divisions, like I mean, welterweight even lower, you really notice the, regret, like the natural regression one I guess when they're older, it's more noticeable, like your attributes like speed and things of that nature. But I mean, I think we see it more in the heavier weight divisions, although to your point, even more younger guys popping up at heavyweight too, but just serving the point of, I feel like you see the older kind of fighters succeed more in those higher weight divisions. I mean, Glover Teixeira in recent years kind of cementing himself as an older first time champion. So, I mean, I think sometimes it also does depend on like the weight category too.
Yeah, it does. You're right. It does depend on the weight category. And we got some fans of Rob, J
Hi.
Spec,
Hi.
Billy Watson. And we got Preston here saying, think I heard last night fighters 35 plus are 2-30 in title fights from flyweight to welterweight. That's a goddamn
That
crazy
is oh my
statistic,
gosh.
right?
You know what though? I believe that statistic because I was just gonna lean on to something that has longer history. We only got 30 years and an evolving sport, so it's skewed. Boxing. Uh yeah, everything Dylan just said was right. You run up to about 160-ish pounds, and your shelf life is like 32. Like you get a little bit more leeway, a little bit more up. Heavyweights been proven they can function pretty well in the north of 35. But at the end of the day, you there's so I'm just blown by the just nothing. I'm sorry, I'm stammering. The fact of the matter is, everybody was wrong. Like I was so wrong. John was so wrong. So many people I know that really know the game was so wrong. Their analysis or prediction of how this fight was going to go wrong. Colby was so bad / Leon so good. I don't even know what it was, but it happened, and now we're left with a dominant world title defense. That's all there's to it.
There you go. Leon, Rocky Edwards, man. 32 years old, hitting his prime, already got 3 title fights under the belt. But please stop right now with all the like, is he the greatest welterweight of all time? He has so much work to do. So much work to do. We need to
Oh,
stop
yeah.
all of that. You know what I
Can I
mean?
can I
Like,
throw this out there? I have
yeah,
an acronym instead of GOAT kids because that implies almost singular, almost always, not all exclusively, but greatest of all time is pointed in a singular direction mostly. Anyways, let's try ATG, all time great. Leon's not even there yet. Above
no.
all time greats, and he's not even there. So let's easy on the GOAT stuff. Like let's create a category where there is actually multiple people. Just want to say,
Yeah, it's, all-time great, not even yet. You know what I mean?
not
Like
even.
we've lowered the bar on like GOAT status and all-time great. Like we lowered the bar too much. We need to raise the bar back up. You know what I mean? I know he's won the title spectacularly. He beat one of the most dominant, welterweights we've ever seen. But you have to do more than that. It's not like one win defies your whole career, right? You know what I mean? Like he's had 2 title defenses. He's done better than a lot of welterweights, right? But would you put him higher than Robbie Lawler? Would you put
Not
him higher than Robbie Lawler? Would you
not
put him higher
yet.
than
Not yet.
yeah, it's hard to say, right? Robbie Lawler. Would you put him higher than Tyrone Woodley?
Not no time. How? I mean, what's the number of I wish I had the data. But I just want to go because Robbie's GOAT status is so high in my brain that like maybe I'm wrong. What? How many defenses did Robbie have? I can't even remember. But I know for
I
sure
believe he
not
had 2.
Tyrone. The 2. Okay, so now they're even. So then I will stay with no. As far as a champion to match him as a fighter in the game, those are 2 separate questions, John. And I'll just clarify. To match Robbie Lawler's contribution in the game, fuck no. Like I don't even know what Leon Edwards needs to have 2 careers to match that shit. But as a champion, I guess he's almost there. Needs one more good defense.
All right. So now who is next? Because I felt like if Colby would have became champion, Leon would have probably likely not have gotten a rematch, right? Because that's That's what I see. What the UFC would have done. And a lot of people always screaming about like, why is Kobe getting the title shot? It's of course, he doesn't have a win against a top 15 fighter. He's so inactive. The reason why he gets a title shot is because of Donald Trump. This is my opinion. I think because he brings Donald Trump to the venue, that makes a huge difference. You know what I mean? Like, who else can bring Donald Trump to the venue besides Dana White?
Oh,
Who?
well, you're also going with the same message. Who's iconically, famously already tied in with the Trump brand? Trump's been coming to fights. It's perfect. Who else is gonna headline that? And like, people want to hate on Colby. That's great. He deserves the hate in many different categories. But one thing people got to separate is separating, business from like feelings. And feelings wise, personal wise, that guy's very dislikable. But business wise, look at the interviews. And I don't talk about what the business says. Talk to other fighters. Kamaru Usman, recently interviewed, said the best paycheck he's got as champion was fighting Colby. Colby sells. Hate it, love it, deal with it.
Yeah, he sells. He brings people, to Vegas. He brings, the Americans out, America, and hey, brings out Donald Trump, man. And Donald Trump could be the next president. Well, he could be president again, and a lot of people support him. But besides that, what I mean? What's next for Kamaru? I think Kamaru should be fighting either Shavkat or Bilal Muhammad. Dylan, what do you think?
Yeah, I was kind of actually thinking of this when you guys were previously talking about like where Leon Edwards sits in like the all-time great welterweight champion conversation, because he kind of is at an interesting point in like a generational sense in the sport, because like guys like Kamaru and Colby almost in certain ways represent to me like the guys that were like really on that come up circa like 2017, 2018, I guess. But now that Leon has a couple defenses underneath him now. I mean, you look at some of the guys coming up. I mean, like Shavkat Rakhmonov specifically stands out to me. And as far as like that younger, surging, undefeated talent, that if, Leon gets the desired outcome there, could be a good one, for his legacy. And Bilal Muhammad, too, another guy who has a lengthy win streak. And there's the rematch narrative there with Leon and everything like that. So, yeah, I mean, it is kind of an interesting sort of state in the division. Also kind of thought it was interesting in the post-fight press conference that Colby seemed to indicate more interest in fighting a guy like, Wonder Boy as compared to Shavkat. I think that binary was sort of presented to him of those two options there, and he seemed like a little more inclined to want the Wonder Boy fight, which I guess, again, to like that previous point of like the generations, it's like Wonder Boy is almost a guy of that era to like when he came up like 2017, 2018, as far as like some of the stuff he was doing. So yeah, I mean, some interesting matchups on the horizon for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because there was a few welterweight fights that were supposed to be on this card that just never happened. But the one that did happen was Shavkat versus Wonder Boy. Shavkat went into that fight. A little birdie told me while I was watching the fight that Shavkat's ankle is wrecked. Like he wrecked his ankle before the fight. Well, we now know because he's done interviews after the fight. But during the fight, when I was watching it, someone told me that it's connected to Shavkat, that his ankle's wrecked. And I told him it doesn't matter because he's going to press him against the fence, stop Wonder Boy from moving around, and take him down and submit him. I think that's what I thought was going to happen and that's what exactly happened. Like, and then a lot of people said, Wonder Boy, he never gets submitted. Well, he did. You know what I mean? Wonder Boy, he's way over the golden threshold age, right? Age-wise. He's still high level. You know what I mean? He's still dangerous. But guys like Shavkat are coming up, man. And if you're fighting guys like Shavkat, you know what I mean? Like Burns, phenomenal ground game. Couldn't submit Wonder Boy. Bilal Muhammad, great grappler. Couldn't submit Wonder Boy. Shavkat with that torn up ankle. Did you notice he was wearing 2 ankle sleeves? Didn't kick at all and submitted Wonder Boy, right? And people were like, oh, he's old. Well, you say that now, but what if Wonder Boy went in there and spin kicked the shit out of Shavkat's head, and next you know he's fighting for the title against Leon, right? And I see what Leon is saying about why he wants to fight Wonderboy, because stylistically that's a better matchup, right? And he's a better known fighter. But if you go to Europe, I think Shavkat versus Leon Edwards in Abu Dhabi, that's a great fight. J Spec, what do you got?
I mean, come on. You can be all like political and like nice about it, but you want to fight Wonderboy because he's 40 and he ain't the same. And like that's it. Like, why would you want to fight Shavkat? The guy, what is this? Not even 30 yet? Like that guy. Yeah, like let's go fight the guy who's super young, studded, priming, on fire, has a style that hasn't been like blueprinted yet. Yeah. Let's take that matchup. No. So like and let's face it, Leon is many good things as a fighter, but like he's not the let's go into the fire. Let's make this he's not a head-on kind of guy. He's more strategic. He's technical. Like, think about it. Jorge Masvidal punched him in the face and he walked it off. Like, he didn't escalate the situation. So I just don't see. I don't know. I don't see. Man, let's be honest. Leon Edwards, even in a good performance against Colby, a very hated person, is not really getting like a whole lot of like that much love. Like, he's still working his way into people's give a shit zone. I just made something up there. Yeah,
well, he's kind of like, to be honest with you, he's kind of like Chris Weidman, how Chris Weidman was during his championship reign. It's like there's people that like him, and then there are people that don't really give a shit, right? And Chris Weidman was a guy after each fight when he was a champion, he'd be like, "You better hop on the train now," before it's, like he was like that. It's a little different, but it's very similar to me from my perspective. But Leon, he's so good everywhere. But the problem is he great anywhere? That's the thing. He's so high level in every aspect, but is he great in one aspect where maybe he hits another level as the champion? You know what I mean? I could see him getting beat in his next two fights. Like, I'm not hating on Leon Edwards, but the guys that he's going to have to face, like Bilal Muhammad could become champion. He could give Leon a lot of trouble, right? Shavkat as well. These are guys that are serious threats to Leon Edwards.
Yeah, you look, dude. You're talking about what? Bilal's on an 11 fight streak, right? I'm throwing up stats like I know what I'm talking about. I just pulling up brain stats. If I'm wrong, sue me.
Yeah, Bilal's on a 49 fight win streak. He still haven't got the title shot yet.
Yeah, deal with
UFC
it.
UFC just fucking with him, right? But anyway,
still undefeated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is crazy because like it's like Leon, what was he on, 8 or 9 fights, something stupid, 6 fight, who cares, something dumb like that too. Then another guy is on an equal or actually longer, more impressive streak, and he's still getting, it's dumb. The whole situation is really dumb. He needs to just fight like a lot. Like the amount of time that Leon got to like weigh, and maybe it was Colby's fault, so maybe it's not Leon's fault when I think about it. But anyways, at the end of the day, these, like, take out Leon and just take out all the names and X factors. This part of a champion's reign is very difficult. Like, everybody's super fucking studying you. Like, look at it, like, historically, like this, like you said, defense number 3 and 4. I mean, like, pretty much everybody fumbles. No disrespect.
I'm gonna tell you right now. Like I said earlier this year, Marina Silva, what was her name? Marina Bueno Silva.
Yeah.
I told everybody
Bueno
that
Silva,
she would be the champion, like, eventually. And look, she's about to fight for the title against Rocky Pennington. I told you guys, like, I was on that hype train with her being the champion. Shavkat, the same thing. I think Shavkat will become the champion. 18-0, 18 finishes.
Yep.
He doesn't look like he's slowing down. He looks like he's getting better. You know what I mean? And especially with the serious injury fighting, he looked so good. You know what I mean? It didn't really affect him. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, how it plays out. Let's jump into the co-main event. Alexandre Pantoja goes in there against Brandon Royval. Brandon Royval, he's a grinder. He's just wild, and he has cardio for days, man, and he was able to stay in there, but just wasn't being. He wasn't able to just do anything against Pantoja, man. Pantoja, his ground game is so good that his striking, like he could do whatever he wants on the feet. He could just march forward, and if he gets clipped or taken down or whatever, he doesn't care because his ground is so good, right? But I liked how uh he kind of flipped the game plan and decided to grapple more, just because to neutralize the threat, right? What's the biggest threat? Royval knocking you out, right? So he goes in there and he stands with them, and he figures out, okay, maybe that's not the way to go. Let's take him to the ground, and he made the adjustments, man. He won the fight. I thought that that's what champions do. Champions go in there and find a way to win. It might not have been the most exciting uh, title fight, but I thought he did really well. And Brandon Royval, man, I think he'll fight for the title again. I think he's good enough to come back. Dylan, what do you think of Pantoja and his first title defense?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because I mean, I thought Royval had also shown some improvements even from their first fight, at least by virtue of going the distance as compared to like the submission that Pantoja got the first time that they fought. And I mean, just very telling. I mean, you talk about the excitement in the fight, and a fair point. I mean, I think Pantoja also kind of noted that, which I thought was indicative of his, champion mindset in a lot of regards to just looking at it, even though on a scorecard level, very comprehensive points win and everything like that, but still very much looking to just, get to that next level and incrementally get better. So yeah, I mean, some of the shots he took throughout the fight too. I mean, that was something I was kind of marveling at different points, like taking like flush knees from Royval, and just, I mean, yeah, what a chin on the guy, just not even registering it seemingly, at least from my, layman perspective. But yeah, ultimately the grappling won the day, and yeah, good first title defense, I'd say.
Yeah, man, he's 33 years old, first title defense, successful. What is he? He's on like the last time he lost was a decision to Askar Askarov, who's not even in the he's not even in the promotion anymore. Um,
Right.
Man, I really enjoy watching Pantoja fight. I don't know if anybody really dislikes watching the flyweights fight, right? If you like fighting, you want to watch flyweights fight. They're just so fast, and they have power, and they're just good everywhere, right? And it seems like they're going and fast forward compared to everybody else. It's
John, since you had a bold prediction, I want to make a bold prediction. Just like the flyweight division, men's flyweight division was on life support and has in a couple of years turned around to be one of the top of the organization. I make the same bold prediction for women's 145. Now marred in agony, I believe it will become the knockout division of women's MMA and become the new show for WMMA. There you go. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, really? That's a that is a bold prediction. I hope so, man. I hope 145 becomes, because there's a lot of girls walking around at 145 and bigger. You know what I mean? They just don't have the opportunity. But going back to Pantoja and the possibilities of him and his next title defense, right? You got I think Moreno. Who's Moreno fighting next? Albazi, right? So Moreno number one and number two are fighting. So most likely, if Albazi wins against Moreno, Albazi will probably get the next title shot. After that, you got number two, Brendan Royval. Then you got Kai Kara France, Mateus Nikolai, Manel Kopp. To me, Manel Kopp is the biggest threat in that division. That guy
Cup. Yo.
is phenomenal, man. Like, I think, like, to be honest, it's gonna be hard to beat Pantoja just because of the style that he has, and he just has that safety button, which is the ground, the wrestling, the grappling. He's just so good there, right? Just you watched it all night, just him like moving from position to position. You know what I mean? It's just like jujitsu guys were probably like creaming in their underwears, right? Just watching that. You know what I mean? They loved it. They loved it so much. They rubbed it on their face. Um, but
Damn.
yeah, I think Cop. You see what I'm doing right now? I'm giving you my predictions for champions next year. I think Cop might become the champion next year, but it's gonna be hard. Like Pantoja's a difficult, but I think Cop, if he gets his chance, he'll probably be the one to be able to take him out. Just like Shavkat, I think Shavkat will be champion next year as well. What do you guys think? What do you think, Dylan? Out of do you think Makaev? He's number 8. I mean, he's coming up as well. You got Kopp, Makaev, Nikolai, Abazi. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with what you were saying in the sense of I feel like Moreno Albazi is probably that, title eliminator. But I mean, Manel, such an interesting fixture in the division. I think he's number 6, maybe. And yeah, just a guy I could see if he wins like a couple more fights could be right in that mix, or even if he gets another one of his customary big, statement victories. So yeah, I mean, definitely an intriguing weight division too. And I mean, globally, you really see it in a lot of regards too. I mean, like Manel obviously having came over from Ryzen, and I mean, some cool Ryzen stuff coming up to close out the year, always fun. I mean, like with like Horiguchi and Hiromasa Ogikubo and John Dodson. So yeah, just a great time to be a fan of flyweights, regardless of like what promotion you're checking out and everything.
Definitely. And Rob, what do you do with Brandon Royval, man?
Man, you just had a good list of guys like Royval. To me, I mean, I don't know how ready it is if the time matches up, but to me, like Royval's got to answer to Kopp. Like to me, that would give the validity to make Kopp the next title challenger. Because I'm like you, John. I want that fight to happen. Or, something like that. Because Mokaev still, I think he's a little too far out. I'm not saying he's not talented enough. The dude's got heart, but just for I'm trying to meritize the damn ranking system that I don't even fully agree with. This is what I'm doing. So I'm arguing my own self in my own head as I speak. But with that being said, Royval, dude, what can I say, man? He was like, all I can say is, there's a lot of fighters that wish there was a few more rounds because, boy, Pantoja was burnt and Royval was killing him in that 5th round, like badly. I was very impressed by his gas tank that you mentioned earlier, John. I just wanted to add on to that. I really don't know, but I would just guess Kopp if he's, I don't think, I'm just no disrespect to Pantoja. I don't think Brandon looked like he was that damaged. So maybe that matchup could happen. There you go.
All right. Everybody, make sure you guys go in the description down below. Download the AllStar app. If you like NFL, NBA, NHL, college, whatever sport, EPL, CPL, GPL, DPL, whatever PLs you watch it nowadays, they're all on the app. You could customize it and also make picks for UFC fights in 2024. And we went through a whole year making picks. Anyways, the next topic, Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. He goes in there and he gets the unanimous decision against Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson, he didn't burn the boats. Let's just say that. Well, he didn't carry the boats, right? Who's carrying the boats? I wish, to be honest with you, I like David Goggins, and he's very inspirational. And, I love, like, his message, right? To push farther than you should push yourself, right? Because most people don't push themselves anywhere near close to their potential. I like that message, right? And he's risking his health to give us that message. I don't think he's gonna live very long, to be honest with you. But he's giving us the message that we want. And Tony, a guy that doesn't even need any kind of conditioning, maybe some mental health, mental training, but that's about it. Goes in there. He doesn't look bad, but he makes Paddy look good. Dylan, he made Paddy look good. Is that true?
Yeah, even at one point, it looked like that he was rocked from some of the strikes that Paddy was generating, like with the sequence where he hit him with the punches and the knee there and everything. And just, the utter domination with the grappling. And I mean, I did understand the thread of commentary where, talking about Tony Ferguson maybe being too content kind of playing that guard game. It's just sort of hard to do that at this point. I mean, you did try to see him do that classic, like Tony Ferguson separate and try to generate those like bigger slicing elbows, but just I don't know, just something about it wasn't quite. I mean, I guess he did kind of get Paddy's nose a little bit at one point, but I mean, an unfortunate situation. I mean, sadly now, Tony Ferguson joining the likes of BJ Penn and Sam Alvey in terms of the cumulative losses and stuff like that. So yeah, sad to see a guy who, you know, is at like a 7-fight losing streak now, previously at like, you know, that 12-fight winning streak and interim champion, etc.
If you're Paddy J-Spec, right, you're on a good win streak. You haven't lost a fight in the UFC. Do you take a top 15 opponent next, or do you continue slow cooking through the division? What is your, if you're Paddy, right? If you're his manager, you know his capabilities, you know the level that he's at. What would you do?
I have a question with inside a question. The question is, do you continue doing the cornrows? You know, like,
oh, that was bad. Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, that was pretty bad, right? That was a bad choice. I just wanted to get that out of the way.
He looked like a Star. He looked like a Star Trek character.
Yeah, out of place. Out of place.
Weird.
And speaking of things that were out of place and weird, so was his opponent. Now, with Paddy, to answer your question, John, top 15, no. I think everybody with eyeballs could see that this was actually a fair test for Mr. Pimblett. Like, Pimblett had to try, and hopefully, you know, rightfully so. No disrespect to Tony, like, as a person, as a human being, if he was fighting like regular Joes, he'd kick their ass. But like, Tony Ferguson is a shell. Like, I hate to say these words, but right now, Tony Ferguson has worked his way into cliche zone. He's now in fighter cliche zone, and I have to use some cliches to describe him now. He is now a shell of the man. Last night, I used the phrase, the old boxing term, are we going to see a bit of old Tony Ferguson, or are we just going to see an old Tony Ferguson? Tony Ferguson. Can't speak, take 5. But, you know, that those old axioms stay in the fight game because it's real, and it sucked. Like, and man, I'm going to call back to a fight I think that happened earlier this year. My memory is shit sometimes, but Short Fuse Ed Herman, right? He stayed in the game maybe just a bit too long in that last fight. His final fight, man, his timing was off, his location was off, his chin was off, like everything was off, like all systems deactivated, right? Fighter no longer exists who you were. Same thing with Tony. Like, he couldn't locate, his timing was off, he did no like attempts to get up, just like these interesting sort of kind of attempts at submissions from the bottom. But man, Pimblett, not that great either. Like, he had a moment where he was out of breath, he was chin up, he was like, he looked kind of like he was about to be overwhelmed, and then it went off in his head, hey, I'll just put this guy on the mat. And well, that's not, to me, top 15 ready. That's just my take.
Well, you guys got to look at it like this too. You know, Paddy, the Smatty. Anyways, yeah, with Paddy, he's, you know, like with Tony Ferguson, right? He's made a living out of just being involved in chaotic fights, right? And that's what he probably wanted to make it against Paddy, a chaotic fight. Even though he went on his back, he still was throwing elbows, and he was trying to figure out a way to win the fight, throw submissions. But like I said earlier, this new generation of guys coming up against these older guys, even though Paddy might not be the highest level, but you just saw like a guy that's probably mid-tier in the division beat up Tony Ferguson, who was an interim champ, who was at once people are saying that he has the best best chance of beating Khabib. I think people forgot about this situation, right? Like, yeah, there was a lot of people saying Tony Ferguson has the skill set to take out Khabib, who never lost, you know, not even around. And now we've just watched him fight Paddy Pimblett and lose, right? It just shows you the gap of skill. Like, even though Paddy's not that good, the older generation, dude, the ones that were good and we consider good are not even like mid-tier against the guys right now. This is what I'm trying to say to you.
Okay, yes, that's a great case of that, but I don't want to use Tony Ferguson as the measuring stick for an entire generation, captain, CTE candidate of the year 2023. Like, nah, not him. Like, I'm not gonna use him as like the aptitude or fight game, because I mean, if I get to do that, then I'm picking Nicholas Dalby. Homie was 38, slugging fools, like looking good. Like this, it's case by case. It's case by case. But with that being said, you're right. Tony Ferguson is a shell of himself. I think we just agreed on the same thing. There's no in any other decade previous to this doesn't happen, but it happened. And I just want to go back to say on Paddy's behalf that I'm not hating or whatever. And I think there's a weird thing happening in MMA culture where we're putting a lot of pressure on prospects to not just win, but to win really impressively or do it in a specific way. And I think that's getting kind of weird. Like, these guys are winning, so I'll take my demands on Paddy and turn it down. You beat Tony Ferguson, yes, in 2023, so I'll asterisk that. But keep marching on, dude. He's a prospect winning. That's the reality of the game, and I like to see it.
Earlier, Dylan was saying something about this as well. We're like in this weird transitional phase in a lot of the divisions, and I wanted to talk a little bit more deeper into that. I think we're in the midst of these couple of years, right, where we got the guys from the 2010s, right, that were phenomenal between 2015 to 2020, and they're aging out, right? But the skill gap of the guys that are coming up in their early 20s is just so high compared to when it was like, let's say between the 2000 era versus 2010 era, the gap between skill level wasn't that big. But I feel like the 2010s to 2020s, the kids that grew up on Anderson Silva, on BJ Penn, on these types of fighters, these fighters, even they're not even in their prime, they're still better than the guys that were in their prime in the 2010s. And we're seeing this ugly transitional period of older guys just getting wrecked. Even though their skill is still pretty good, it's just the younger guys are just younger, faster, have all the skills already, right? Just haven't even hit their prime yet. And this is the result, man. So once in a while you get an outlier like Jim Miller, which Jorge mentions. And what were you saying, Jason?
I just wanted to add on to what you're saying, John, because no, it's true. It's part of the growth of the sport. Everybody talks about the growth of the sport in the business sense. It's easy to measure. No, this is the growth of the sport because children, there's literally a whole generation of young men and women who were born young enough that they were born into a world where MMA was a full-blown sanctioned sport their whole life, and were able to train in MMA with high-level coaches and stuff readily available in a world where this sport exists. I don't speak for Dylan exactly. I speak for myself, and I can speak for John. At least I know we came from the era where this shit was all made up. We were taking shit from everywhere else and cobbling this shit together. We were training literally separate martial arts and then trying to figure this shit out together. Like, these kids are doing it, one whole real sport, and it's amazing. Their level, like you said, John, is fantastic. And this is the benefit of that previous era and all those fighters. Think about how many of those fighters, maybe, not the champions or all the guys that we kind of instantly think of, but all the fighters that then went and opened up gyms across the United States and abroad. And now all of that fruit of that labor is showing up in our sport. And so it's a really special time, like you're saying.
All right, so all eyes on Paddy and what's next for him. I don't think people really care about what Tony Ferguson is gonna do next. He's pretty much exhausted everything, right? He brought in David Goggins. Come on, that's exhausting. It's like bringing in Steven Seagal, right? It's like bringing in the dust cop guy. You know what I mean? Like it's very similar to all of that. So what's next for Paddy? I give you three options. Jorge, he mentions that Jim Miller and Paddy Pimblett at 300. That's an option, right? And that's not a bad option. And I think Jim Miller, he's not Tony Ferguson. There's a difference there, right? But the other two options, I'm gonna throw it to Dylan, is Chase Hooper. That's option number one. Option number two,
okay.
Brad Riddell. So you got Jim Miller, Brad Riddell, Chase Hooper. Three different fighters, three different parts of their careers. Who would you give, and who would Paddy benefit most from? Because I think that's the way he looks at it.
I think I think Jim Miller would probably go with the current trend at the very least in as far as like Paddy fighting the guys that are like the tenured sort of veterans of the division, but maybe not quite right within that established top 15 hierarchy. And I mean, part of that answer too is really tied to like Jim Miller specifically. I mean, there's just something I really enjoy about him, fighting on 100, 200 and getting on 300. And I mean, fighting a guy like Paddy, there's that athletic meritocracy there. I mean, Paddy has a level of star power, so it would be a fight that would get attention for Jim. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. I think, yeah, wouldn't mind seeing that. But again, like those are good options too with Riddell and Hooper, as you mentioned too. But I don't know. I feel like there's something about Miller being on that 300 card as well that would really be cool.
I don't know. Paddy Pimblett versus Chase Hooper, main event somewhere.
That's the one.
That's a pretty good fight.
That's the one. And I just want to say a lot of great comments down there. The only one I disagree with, I don't recognize regional titles. Like if you have a title from, Cage Fury, or Cage Warriors or Cage Your Mama, I don't care. Like it doesn't matter. It means nothing. You are a prospect until you are either proven to be a challenger, which is top 5 or higher, and that, or contender, and then challenger means you actually fight for the title. So there you go. When I say prospect, I mean someone that is in the league working their way up the rankings. Just for clarifications, I know Paddy has more than 10 fights, which is another way of defining a prospect. I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, well, people think prospect. I think a lot of what prospect is, it's with age, right? It's like, how old is this prospect? This young gun, right? Like that's what you look at it. And in fighting, it's weird because, or in sports, I guess overall it's weird because you could have a 35-year-old prospect. It just can happen, right? Like when you played minor league baseball for 10 years and then you get called up for the first time. Are you a veteran or are you a prospect?
If you're fresh to a new league,
I think you're a veteran.
Every time, to me, in my eyes, every time you're in a new league, it's a new system. But hey, whatever is,
Well, Tony, I hope he finds what's next in his life. If it's fighting, if he continues fighting, hey, people are gonna watch, right? I could see him going to bare knuckle, or I could see him doing like BKFC tie rules or something. I mean, something crazy. Like imagine Tony Ferguson versus like Bull Cow or something like that. That could be.
I mean, we just trying to we're trying to kill Tony. I mean, we just saw Bull Cow.
We can see him karate combat, right? Karate combat.
Hey,
John,
I mean, Anthony Pettis, I think, wants to do BKFC. Maybe we do Pettis Ferguson rematch BKFC. I mean, we got some options, I guess.
You see? Hey,
I mean,
mixed martial artists have so many options now. Like if you built a name for yourself, what I mean? If you have a reputation, like if you leave any promotion, you could actually go and fight like these. Like you could go fight combat karate. You don't have to be a karate expert to fight combat karate. It's striking, right? Sam Alvey just won the heavyweight title.
It's like striking, but like half-ass MMA, because you can like do takedowns. I seen dudes slamming, just like it's not like,
it's different.
It's not like karate at all.
Yeah, you can do like 5 seconds of ground and pound. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting rule set. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good, man. It's good for combat sports. It gives options for fighters, and Anthony Pettis, what a phenomenal guy. I mean, like the last couple of years, he's just done anything and everything that he's pretty much won. He boxed Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah,
and he's beat Benson Henderson in karate combat. He fought for PFL, fought for the UFC. This is all in the past couple of years.
I want to shout out to Anthony Pettis via Dre Miley. I heard the way he takes care of the fighters that fight for his organization. He treats them very well. And Dre's opponent got ill, fell out of the fight. They gave him his show money and travel money and took care of him still. So, you know what I mean? Like, I just want to say shout out to Anthony Pettis taking care of fighters, being a fighter yourself, man. That's cool stuff.
All right. And yes. So let's move on to the last, the pay-per-view opener, which was insane, right? Like one of the gnarliest knockouts, one-punch KOs. And we've seen Josh Emmett do this in the past, right? A few times. Like we've seen him do it to Michael Johnson. We've seen him do it to Ricardo Ramos. Or it's not Ramos. Lamas. Ricardo Lamas? Yeah, Ricardo Lamas. We've seen him do it to a few guys. It was just brutal. It was just nasty. And Bryce Mitchell, I was watching the fights with a fighter. And I was saying like Bryce Mitchell, you know, I mean, he's very good, but he lacks in his striking so much to where like if you got a guy like Josh Emmett that can defend against the grappling and kind of keep it off the ground, Bryce Mitchell is in serious danger. And that's what Josh Emmett pretty much did, is chase him around with the right hand and connected, right? It was nasty, man. Bryce, he's gonna need to take some time off. Josh Emmett, he's in a weird situation too, because he's like 39 years old, 40 years old. He's still at the top of the division. He just beat Bryce Mitchell, but can he go and beat the top guys? Um, he believes he still can, right? And he showed that he can beat the top guys. You know, Bryce Mitchell's not no pushover, but I don't know what you do with Josh Emmett. Who was he supposed to fight originally? You guys remember?
Giga.
Oh, Giga. I
Giga.
say we
I
put that
believe,
fight
yeah.
back together, right? What do you think? What'd you think of the knockout? And what do you think of just like fighters taking short notice fights against like that type of style?
Yeah, I mean, the knockout was, I mean, as much as like the actual initial part of the knockout was, I mean, incredible. I mean, truly a highlight reel viral knockout that was circulated quite a bit. But I don't know, like I've got a pretty strong stomach for a lot of combat sport, but there was something about the way that he seizured that like really, I don't know, just
Yeah.
made me feel kind of ill, to be completely honest. Like it was like fairly off-putting to see that. So I mean, I did see Bryce put out a video after the fight saying he was okay and kind of just articulated how he saw the fight, like the story of the fight unfurling and whatnot. So I mean, glad to see he's doing well. But I mean, yeah, Emmett is in a bit of a difficult spot there, and I mean, a really rough guy to fight on short notice. So credit to Bryce in that sense that he was like even game enough to, you know, fight someone like that. But I mean, yeah, you put it well, John. He's kind of in that sort of spot now where he is a bit of an older guy in the division, demonstrable sort of power. It's like, I mean, where does he go from here? Does he face one of the young guns in the division? And it's like a, you know, gatekeeper type situation almost. I mean, yeah, interesting to see where he goes from here.
What do you think, J-Spec?
I will advocate once again that I think the term gatekeeper should be remodeled and reconsidered by the public to not be a negative moniker of achievement, to keep people out of the top 5 or 10 or whatever. That's fucking badass, dude. So if you can be a badass gatekeeper, why not? That if you want to keep fighting, and I God bless everybody who wants to keep fighting when you're past the, you know, the magic number and you've tried your best at the very top of the top 5 and it doesn't work out and you want to keep fighting. Okay, I get it. Like not everybody has to be a championship or bust mindset. So with that being said, why not? Why not validate yourself as still of the 10 best, you know, on the planet Earth? Like I think every martial artist would be pretty proud of that, at least in my opinion. So why not? Like, if you can, I mean, you blew the guy out. Like, this wasn't close. Like, you know, Bryce Mitchell is respected. He's popular. He's got a good skill set. But Mr. Emmett laid his ass out like bad. Like it wasn't even close. It wasn't a competition. It was like just amazing. So, you know, I think you know, if you want to keep making good checks, because he also got a bonus from that, right? Like I'm pretty sure. Anybody want to fix me on that? I'm pretty sure you got a bonus. So like, dude, you're getting dubs, beating popular young guys because you're older. You know, get that shine on you. Like the reverse way, we always talk about the young lions beating the old lions. If you can appropriately matchmake yourself as a credible gatekeeper, not like in the negative way, you can be making yourself some fat bonuses, some highlight reel stuff like Jim Miller, like this. Like I mean, like even think about it. I know I keep bringing it up because he's like the best example, but Arlovsky, man, Arlovsky has a whole beautiful second chapter of his career based on what? Appropriate matchmaking and gatekeeping progressively. As father time takes a little bit from you, you adjust and stay in the game. There you go. That's my take.
All right, so Josh Emmett, I think he should fight Arnold Allen next. I think Arnold Allen is coming off a loss, maybe. I'm not for sure, but he's ranked number 4. I think Josh Emmett deserves a shot at a guy ahead of him. But yeah, Josh Emmett always dangerous, man, and that power is never gonna go away. He had a couple setbacks, but that was against two of the best guys in the division, right? Yair and what is it, Ilya? So we'll see, man. We'll see what maybe he'll defy the odds. Maybe he'll defy the odds and of age. But he's 38 right now, about to turn 39. We'll see.
The father time thing is just like you're unknown. Oh, bless you.
Excuse me.
But there's a couple fighters who have cheated it, right? There's a couple fighters who have, but not trying to be a sour duck about it. If you do look on paper, historically, the guys who have bent father time's will the longest are grappling centric. But hey, whatever's knockout power still carries forever.
There you go. Now let's go to probably the fight of the night. Was this fight of the night? Did they give
Yes,
this fight of the night?
yes, they did. Like
Okay,
not just
so
emotionally, but officially.
fight of the night, man. Kara Hosa versus Irene Aldana. Man, Kara Hosa, she came out and she's so much better than people think she is, right? Even though this fight she lost, but man, she has come out of nowhere, to be honest with you. She's fought so many times and she's not the most exciting fighter, but man, she wins fights. And she was on her way to winning this fight. She was doing really, really well. And then Aldana, she just like turned the corner, showed you that high level, right? Showed you that high level of being in championship fights, being in there against like some of the best to ever do it in the division. And I think that's the separation here. I feel skill for skill, Hosa is just as good. You know what I mean? She did get popped a lot, but she was landing as well. You know what I mean? She had Irene in some trouble. What you think, Dylan, about this fight?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting, dynamic heading in for sure, because I think like, I don't know, the MMA is kind of like a what have you done for me lately sort of sport in a sense, as far as like some of the broader perception. And I think some people were kind of forgetting like how exciting Irene Aldana can be as a fighter, because she had like a relatively listless performance against Amanda Nunes, like I guess as compared to some of her prior fights. And I mean, this was an absolute barn burner. So I think there was that certain sense of just, coming into it and subverting that idea from the last fight. And I mean, credit to both fighters. They definitely showed that like champion spirit and adapting throughout in a myriad of ways too. So yeah, I mean, just an incredible fight. And I mean, the picture that the two had after in the hospital too, just, speaks volumes. I mean, whenever I see those kind of photos after like barn burner fights, it just shows like such a unique, like visceral camaraderie in the sport,
J-Spec.
I can't agree more that those photos were touching, moving, shows you what the fighters sacrifice when they give you a war, and that's what we got. We got a gift from the fight gods. Someone mentioned and pointed out kind of astutely that when you fight Amanda Nunes, a lot of times there's like an Amanda Nunes like hangover that you get, and then you kind of go on a losing skid. And early into this fight, I was a little bit worried. Irene didn't quite look like herself. She was losing, and she found the magic somewhere after into round two. It was kind of beautiful to watch. Like you got to watch a woman like, is it devolve or evolve back to herself? She like became the fighter she once was before she lost for the title. You know what I'm trying to say? Anyways, it was cool to see. And man, just what can you say other than just beautiful violence that everybody loved, everybody respected, and they stole the show. Like, I'm gonna be honest, they stole the show, and I'm so happy for them. Whatever they do with the bonus, I hope it makes them super happy.
Yeah, definitely. They deserve some extra cash. That was a great fight. I mean, if you missed that fight, you better go back and watch it. Probably one of the best fights of the year, right? They were just in there, just in the pocket, just going crazy. And then after that, you had actually before that, you had Cody Garbrandt knocking out Brian Kelleher. Kelleher was coming back from the neck issues, neck surgery. They were telling him he would probably never fight again, and then they lined him up against Cody Garbrandt. Last fight on his contract for Brian Kelleher. I like Brian a lot. You know what I mean? He's faced some. Look at Brian's like track record. let's check out his track record, dude. It's pretty insane, dude. Like who he's fought in that bantamweight division, and he's 37 years old. You know, not the youngest guy, but man, he's taken some serious matchups, dude. Look at his matchups. He fought Cody Garbrandt just recently. Before that, he fought Batista. Before that, he fought Umar. He fought Ricky Simone, Cody Stamen, O'Day Osborne, Montel Jackson, John Lineker, Henan Barao. He beat Henan Barao in his debut. Well, actually, not his debut. He fought Marlon. Dude, look at who he's fought, man.
A lot of dudes, man.
He's fought a lot of high-level good dudes. You know what I mean? He didn't win all of them, but I'm just saying, like, he's not afraid to take chances. But, yeah, man, that was a bad knockout, too. That was one of those knockouts, like, it was bad, right? Am I wrong for saying that? That knockout was pretty nasty? What do you think?
Ooh, it was spectacular. It was
and, like,
spectacular,
Cody-
man. Like,
Yeah, I think it's
Cody
classic.
Garbrandt needed
Yeah,
that.
Garbrandt. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I was worried, to be honest. Like, I don't think Brian's all that great, but I thought he was pretty good and good enough to land a few punches. And I just really don't have any faith in Cody's chin. But boy, in the last two fights, I think Cody looks renewed. Not in the chin department because we ain't gonna really tell, but his movement, looking good, man. Like it looks like a much improved, better version of himself. I'm not jumping back on the Cody Garbrandt train. I never really was on it in the first place, to be clear. So with that being said, it was a cool win, but against a guy that was like halfway medically retired and all that, I don't really know how much stock to put in that. Just saying.
Yeah, Cody Garbrandt, he has a new striking coach. I guess
Didn't he call
Jose
out Davis and
Aldo's-
Figueiredo after the fight? Isn't Brian indicated wanting to fight next?
Yeah, he said he wanted to fight Figueiredo next. Yes, I see that. That's a great call out. But before we get into that call out, I wanted to like kind of dig into like Cody Garbrandt a little bit. He mentioned that he has a new striking coach. His new striking coach is Jose Aldo's former coach, like striking coach. So I
That's
guess
not
his
bad.
coach is in Vegas, and he has a couple UFC fighters right now that he's working with, and Cody Garbrandt is one of them. Did it change anything? I don't really think it made huge differences, but I feel like Cody Garbrandt needed a fight like that. He needed that type of like finish to gain his confidence back. Because the Trevin Jones fight, I don't think he was gaining any confidence from that. I mean, that was just a bad fight. But yeah, Brian, hopefully he lands on his feet somewhere if he continues fighting. Cody, that Davison Figueiredo fight, that's a dangerous fight, man. Why are you asking for stuff like that? I don't like it. Dylan, what do you think about that call out?
I mean, serving the idea that he wants to get back into the rankings, which seems to be what he's looking at, it makes sense. But I mean, I mean, quite the stiff test. I mean, former flyweight champion, one of the like more proven action fighters in the smaller, kind of weight categories there. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like that would be a safe one where if you're inclined to bet on fights, the prop bet on it ending inside the distance would probably be the go-to one.
What I think is that Cody was probably looking at the top 15 and he was thinking like, okay, who can I call out that most likely other fighters don't want to fight? And I think that's Davison Figueiredo is one of those guys in the division right now. It's like we saw what he did against Rob Font, right? And the people are probably like, okay, maybe I should avoid that matchup for a little bit. I mean, it's not that you're scared. You just avoid matchups that are not good for you, man. That's the part of the game. It's all strategy too. You know what I mean? Slide yourself into good matchups where the percentage of you winning the fight is higher than it would be against other matchups. But anyways, so I think Davison Figueiredo is like, would Davison Figueiredo fight Cody Garbrandt? 100%. I think he would. I think that fight might happen. Like I think there's like an 80% chance that fight happens just because of the name value, right? And Davison Figueiredo will fight anybody. And fighting a former champ is always good. And both of them are former champs. So we'll see what happens with them. But yeah, man, what is it? Cody Garbrandt looked good, but we got to see him in his next fight against a higher caliber type of opponent. And it could be Davison Figueiredo. It could not be. All right, let's go to the next one. Before we go to the next one, make sure you go in the descriptions, download the AllStar app, and make your picks for UFC fights and join the league. JSpec got a league going on. You can win prizes. all of that good stuff. All right, next one. Ariane Lipski gets the second round submission armbar against Casey O'Neill. Casey O'Neill has never been finished, has never been submitted, and now Casey O'Neill, after winning 9 straight, has lost back-to-back in that flyweight division. Lipski looks like she's getting better every single fight. She's an example of a fighter that came into the UFC with a lot of hype, didn't live up to the hype, but continued to progress. And now she's taking out a fighter like Casey O'Neill, who had a lot of hype as well. You know what I mean? But she doesn't seem like she's getting any better. But Lipski does. And Lipski looked good everywhere. She looked solid everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, it was pretty impressive, man, watching her and watching her develop, because a lot of people, I think, just gave up on her. Like, you know, she's hyped, right? She was so good on the regional scene or somewhere else, but now she's no good. She's proven everybody wrong, right? And J-Spec, Casey O'Neill, man.
Bro, I was pointing at myself because I was calling myself out. I was one of those guys. I sold all my. I would be the worst. This would be like. I'm gonna admit it. I'm just gonna admit it. Okay, I'm just gonna put this out there. I sold all my Ariane Lipski stock when I thought it was no good, and it's clearly good, and now I'm regretting it. I bought into the Casey O'Neill stock, maximum value, right before it just plummeted. I am the worst. Like, this was a wake-up call to my brain to tell myself, to remind myself, hey, that image of Ariane Lipski that you had in your head, remove that, delete that file. That is not the fighter that exists today. This, what you saw last night, that is the Ariane Lipski that you're dealing with. A woman with speed, power, accuracy, an awareness, situational awareness in the octagon. Like, damn, really good, dude. That's all I can say.
Yeah, look at like the ups and downs that she's been through, right? She started her UFC career back-to-back losses to Joanne Wood and Molly McCann, won 2 in a row and then lost 2 in a row, finished both times, won 1 and then lost to Priscilla, got finished in that fight as well.
There's like a
But
knee
now
injury in there too, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then she's won 3 in a row. What's concerning about this is not Lipski getting better. It's
Casey O'Neill's
Casey
plateauing.
O'Neill, man. Like, what's going on with her? You know, like, doesn't seem like Vegas is the right spot. You know what I mean, for everybody. You know, what do you think, Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, very compelling performance. I mean, definitely showed that, you know, Queen of Violence moniker that a lot of like the big KSW fans of Lipski were really talking about heading in, but almost kind of adds to the story in a way, just facing that early adversity after coming in as such like a very hyped like KSW product, and yeah, now on a multi-fight win streak. And yeah, it could be interesting with Lipski. I mean, you mentioned her training situation and maybe how it's not the right fit. Like, do you think it would behoove her to maybe like go train somewhere else? Like, do you have like a certain idea in mind, John? Like, maybe what would be a good spot to switch it up to, maybe?
I have no idea, but like, she needs to change something up. I think, you know, because she just recently changed her striking coach, right? She used to have Eddie Baracco at Extreme Couture, but now she has the same striking coach as Cody Garbrandt, which can be beneficial, but like in such a short period of time, you know what I mean? How can you mold, you know, your striking differently? It just, I don't know. She just didn't look like the same Casey O'Neill, right? It just didn't. She was just trying to strike too much. I think that was another problem. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. It's like with fighters, you never know what's going on behind the scenes with their camps and stuff like that. But like, just from what we know, there's got to be some kind of change or something, right? Maybe her knee's not 100% still, because she's coming back from a knee injury, I believe. Or was
I mean, you mentioned Shavkat before with like the ankle injury. So I mean, like sometimes like fighters will disclose the injuries, or someone related to the fighter will. Sometimes kind of goes under the radar. And yeah, I mean, it could be a situation like that. You never really know, right? So many variables in this game.
Well,
for
you
sure.
you just touched on a bunch of stuff, and even just at surface value, just a fractionally true all of it. So one, she is coming off of a knee injury that she had. Thanks to Sickle for this information. She had hurt her knee previous, and then rushed to come back, hurt it again. This was her first time testing that knee. We see a lot of athletes. It doesn't matter what sport, but we can obviously point to MMA. Fighters need to find out they can trust that knee to do what it's got to do, and sometimes they look a little awkward and different that first time testing out the new hardware, if you will. And then once they know it's good, which hopefully it was, and it physically looked okay from the outside, that she is good. Now the other part, what John said, the switching striking coaches, pretty much widely spoken and understood kind of common knowledge in boxing anyways, is boxing, everybody says you don't really see the benefit of a coach until 2 fights. It takes 2 fights before you see the striking. So if we're talking about a striking coach, I know it's not exactly the same because it's variant for MMA, but if it takes 2 fights for a boxer to adjust with a new coach, I wouldn't assume that it would be quicker or faster for an MMA person that has to deal with multiple skill sets. There you go.
Yeah, when you look at her record, right? She comes in, and if you look at the way she's fought early on in her career, a lot of these, almost all of these finishes are on the ground, right? Either it's a submission or it's ground and pound, and that's what she was known for. That's what she was strong at, right? Like she really would take these girls and just out muscle them, right? And then her ground game was really good to the point where she could control positions really well and then pound them out, and that's what she was going. I think the turn was in this Roxanne Modafferi fight. If you remember that fight, she took a different approach and said, "Okay, I'm going to sit here and try to stand and trade with Modafferi." And Modafferi not the most technical fighter, but so I guess you could test some things out, right? And she arguably maybe lost that fight against Modafferi in a lot of people's eyes, right?
I'm
And
one
then
of them.
after that, she just kind of continued with that style of like, "Oh, let's go trade on the feet and see if we can do in the striking," and it just didn't pay out in the last 2 fights, man. It just, you could argue that she might be on a 3-fight losing streak right now, right? It's just the shift in her approach, or whoever's guiding her. I don't know. I think it should change, but we don't know the full story behind the scenes, so we'll have to wait on that. But yeah, big win for Lipsky, and we'll see what happens with her, man, in the future. The next fight we have the first 3 fights, the first five fights are all finishes, right? So
Fantastic.
so you had Tajir against Cody Durden, and you got Andre Fili against Lucas Almeida, and then you got Shamil Gassiev versus Martin Budai. Um, so in these three, Andre Fili, of course, had a phenomenal first finish since like 2019. But Tajir, man, I feel like in that fight, there's some things that we should discuss a little deeper. The first thing is Tajir cheating, on the fence, and then the ref don't do shit about it. This is a problem, dude. Because look, if there was no warning, right? There was no hard warning or whatever, and then they said, "Okay, Tajir, you grabbed the fence with your toes and held on there multiple times. You're gonna lose position. We're gonna start you back in the center." That's what should happen, right? I don't think you should take a point, but you lose the position if you're in an advantageous position. That fight plays out differently, right? Like Cody Durden doesn't have Tajir on his back for 3 minutes or whatever. That's tiring, right? And then he loses by submission.
Dude,
Um, yeah, go ahead. What do you think?
well, it's huge because if you look at the timing of it, right when Durden, went to duck to get him up and over the top, that's when the grip happened with the toes, and that balance saved him and kept him more on back than he would have been. He would have been, I can't say he would have escaped, but he would have been further higher up the back and struggling to keep his balance on Durden, and Durden probably doesn't get stuck with the choke applied because that next step never happened. I mean, it was egregious. I called it live when it was happening. I was a little bit upset in the moment. So yeah, dude, that stuff is major. Like, I don't know how much people didn't really appreciate how bad of a foul that was, but that was humongous, man.
It was humongous and it was shitty, man. Like it determines the outcome of the fight, where the referee clearly could have done something about it without even taking a point. Dylan, this is a major problem. I think in heading into the new year, commissions should be talking about how to fix these things, right? Because this is something that continually happens over and over and over, and it's just like it's just a warning. So it's like just cheat. That should be the motto of
Yeah, I think
the
there needs.
next Venom shirt. Just cheat.
Yeah, I feel like there needs to be outright point deductions because I mean these fighters know what the rules are at this point and what they're to be doing, or at the very least, like in that specific context too. Like maybe even if you're gonna do the hard warning route, at least have the fighter like lose the position then and have them start standing or something like that. You know what I mean? Like something that can like I guess meaningfully sway the context of the fight, or rather prevent that swaying, which seemed to have been the case in the fight being referenced here. So it's like either outright take a point, or if you're going to do the hard warning route, at least like have the guy lose the position and start them standing or something like that. Like,
Yeah, there's a solution, simple solutions to major fouls, right? And I don't know if it's a major foul, but it's a clear foul. And you guys gotta, the referees, the commissions, they got to enforce it, man. If they don't enforce it, then people are gonna cheat. It's just natural. I would.
Not trying to
Yeah.
go too far, but any foul that impacts the outcome of a fight is a major foul. Just saying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gripping the
And
toe.
it's
Yeah.
major money too.
Yeah, I mean, we're too far in the game for this. And I don't know what to do. We keep arguing about it. Like you, John, I just hope the best that there's somebody starts fixing this stuff because it's ugly for the sport. It makes it look like we don't even know what we're doing when they don't know what they're doing and then they're not following their own rules. But regardless, there's many other things. And I guess I'm just going to use this moment to say the eye poke situation needs to be fixed. Like that is a point deduction, immediate, no questions asked. Like that needs to be the new standard. That's a rule change I would like to implement for 2024. Immediate point deduction for any eye poke. Too bad, so sad.
There you go. Now, there was some like little news snippets from this pay-per-view, right? The first one I wanted to discuss with you guys is the Ian Gary situation. Like Dylan, I want to start with you, man, because did you cover any of this like throughout the week working?
A bit for Sports Key, covering the Ian Gary situation and whatnot. Yeah.
And what'd you think of like all of that stuff that was happening, and like what are the repercussions of him pulling out with the flu? Because the flu has been going around. Like there's been like flus going around like everywhere, like even in different countries. So it's not like he lied about his sickness. I don't think that is something that is possible. Because the doctors have the final call on that. He doesn't really, to be honest. Maybe he does. I don't know. But the thing is, like, yeah, like, what do you think of like everything that happened, and like, what are the repercussions of all of this, like before and now after, like him pulling out the fight?
Well, it's interesting because I think like the way I was looking at the fight heading in initially, it seemed like there was a lot of pressure on him from a lot of the surrounding rhetoric and everything like that with like the WAG book and this, that, and the other. I feel like there's just going to be an additional layer of that whenever like they try to get him out there for the next one, like even with this. So yeah, I mean, I get it. Like it's a commission decision. I mean, I'm sure he would have tried to fight if he could and everything like that. And sometimes those sicknesses do happen like relatively close proximity to the fight. We saw a similar thing in BKFC too, with Ben Rothwell dropping out of a recent fight with like a similar kind of like flu situation as well. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like Ian Gary will just have another situation where there's like even more compounded like outside factors kind of weighing into it whenever he goes in next. Like I'm sure that's going to be a subject of conversation to a degree.
Yeah, for sure, man. And what about you, J-Spec? What's your thoughts on that?
Ian Gary, his situation will not be solved until he wins in the UFC. And when I say wins, he needs to win the next one. You know, that's unfortunately the game. This is how it works. This is how being famous works. You know, when people are talking shit to you and you're an athlete or they got stuff to say about you, the way you just hush up the crowd is winning. And it sounds simple, obviously not easy to do in the UFC. So Ian Gary's got a huge task, but he's not going to win. He's not going to win anything through a microphone. He can't talk his way out of this. There's no like massaging this situation in any other facet. He's got to win. If he loses, well, I'll just leave it out alone. I mean, everything implodes for him, in my opinion. But if he wins, he, UFC, and not just UFC, MMA, sports, fandom as a whole, like the next tragedy, unfortunately, will happen, and people will forget as long as Mr. Gary wins. I want to talk about. Sorry, John. I just want to talk about the brawl that happened during the fight, at the fight between the middleweight champion and Dricus du Plessis, because the reason why I want to talk about this is I find it shameful. All right. And I'm just going to speak on behalf of Team America, because I know we got Team Canada, Team Korea here. But, on behalf of Team America, I want to say that I think it's distasteful to get into a fist fight with a former president, like him or not. Okay. Respect the office, respect the title, respect the structure of our civilization. The president is in the room, ex-president, whatever. You get into fist fights, bruh. There's nobody, I don't know in a recorded history that the King of England or the Queen of England was somewhere and someone got into a fist fight in the same room. Pick your favorite country. Did the Prime Minister of Korea, anybody get in a fist fight in the room with the Prime Minister? No. So we look like baboons, man. We look like clowns, and I just had to say that. So I know there's anything that can unfold about what you want to say about the fighters, this and that, whatever. But America, the sport as a whole, bruh, come on. This come on. We're in public, people. The cameras are rolling.
I'm proud to be an American.
USA, USA.
Hey, this is MMA, man. Like, this is what is to be expected. Like, why is it a surprise still to people? This is MMA. This is the UFC. The UFC is entertainment. Like the martial artist thing is there, but it's not. And, there's so much going on surrounding this event, right? You had the Ian Gary thing, all of that going on. Then you had the Colby Covington situation going on about him talking about dude's father, and then you had Dricus talking about Sean Strickland's father, and then you had Sean O'Malley beefing with two guys, and then like there's so much going on, right?
You had Aljo getting fucking kicked out or not even let into the venue.
Oh yeah,
that was wild. Like
yeah. What?
Like, stupid, and this is just what is to expect, and more of it as the new year comes. Like, don't think that this is shameful and all of that. Like, I think the word shame is out of the vocabulary of MMA. Dude, there's no shame in MMA. Like, just do what you do, and you're just trying to get more eyes on you. And Sean Strickland, like, I respect a guy that goes in and like goes fully 100% into like what he believes in. But man, he's starting to flip flop a lot now. Don't you notice?
Mm-hmm.
He said a lot of things in the past. And, it's all on video. It's all on audio. And now he's flipping and flopping on all of that shit. It's just funny to me.
Bro, you can't go out there. You can't go out there talking shit and then go get upset when someone talks shit back to you, bro. Like, that's like ace number one rule of adult life. Like, I think everybody learns that. Like, you not even adult life. You learn that as a kid in your neighborhood. Like, that's if you go around talking and talking and talking, people are gonna fire back at you eventually. Not everybody is gonna be afraid of you, Sean. Like, it's gonna happen, man. Like, come on, bro.
If they fight, man. That's part of the game. But I don't look at it as like disgraceful or nothing like that. I think like people are all up in arms about like Colby talking about dude's father, and like this is the sport now.
I got a question though. When you're talking about like this is kind of the sport now, just to you two guys, super smart. Do you guys find it a little bit weird that like it happened, the camera on you gentlemen and action, and it seemed created almost, timed exceptionally well. Last but not least, Dana White comes into the presser afterwards and full blown admits, he goes, "Oh, I'm the one who makes all the seating arrangements for the fights, and I'm the one who put those two guys together." Yeah, how stupid was that? That was his quote. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't. Anyways, I'm just throwing out some puzzle pieces. Some of it seems weird to me.
Nah, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of like, yeah, I don't know. For me, it kind of underscores like a bit of the pro wrestling sort of underpinning of MMA. And as far as like, is this a work? Is this a shoot? Is it a little bit of like a little something in the middle? Because yeah, there was a certain something to like the camera going to Strickland and then doing the little like finger gun at Duplessis, and then he's like moving Gilbert Burns' kids out of the way, and the whole brawl breaks out. Like it kind of looked like something from like the Attitude Era, like Vince McMahon
Yes.
come out of the tunnel and start barking a promo or something like that. Like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it did kind of give that vibe a touch, but I mean, yeah, I mean, MMA has always kind of like functioned sort of in that way, and as far as being a persona-driven sort of thing, and that sort of thing eliciting reaction too. I mean, even like, I don't know, McGregor Habib as like an example a few years ago too, similar kind of thing where kind of resonated in that way as well. But yeah,
they've never shown fights in the crowd with UFC cameras before, and that's the part that hit me. Even back in the old days, like literally the old Pioneer days where everything went crazy, there's fights in the crowd, they didn't pan to it, they stayed away from it. So I thought it was weird because any fight in the crowd, they've historically not shown it, done their best to edit from it, but this was just like boom, 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 timing. And then the boss man goes, "Oh, I made the mistake and I put him there." Like everybody in the space, live time, regular human beings all over the planet goes, "What fucking idiot put those two guys together?" You telling me the guy who runs the biggest organization that we all know and trust and is known to be a smart guy was like, "I'm gonna stick those guys together," and the camera just goes perfectly on time and just seems weird to me. I'm just saying that's my argument, leaving it alone.
No, all good, man. All good. Yeah, man. It only adds to the hype, right? Only adds to the hype of the fight, and how come everybody else is not fighting? I mean, like, how come Sean O'Malley's not attacking Chito Vera? Because you know why? Because he'll beat that ass. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's just some people are into it, some people are not. You know what I mean? It's hard to argue like if it works or if it doesn't work, but it seems like it's working because the UFC, they don't penalize their fighters for it. You know what I mean? Like, if you notice in other sports, if you talk about the officiators, like, you get penalized, like you get fined. You can't talk about, like, in MMA, you can actually talk about the referees and the judges and stuff, right? And criticize them. Other sports you can't. Have you guys noticed that in other sports they get fined?
Because that's in their player league agreement stuff. That's part of their unions. Fighters don't have unions, so that until that, if ever happens, then they'll be free to criticize the refs as much as they want.
Oh, okay. So it's the union shit. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So another thing that came out of this was, what was another thing that came out of this outside of like the Ian Gary stuff? Oh yeah, they announced Michael Venom Page.
Yes.
Signing with the UFC, right? Man, I like it, man. Michael Venom Page has always been an exciting fighter to watch. I've seen him fight live before, so it's crazy. It's different when you watch somebody on TV and then you watch them live in person, especially like a unique fighter like Michael Venom Page. It's just odd. You know what I mean? It's just like unbelievable the way that they move. I'm excited for him, man. And you know what? The UFC is doing a good job of like just throwing him into the fire because he's not young. You know what I mean? He's not. There's no developmental stage for MVP. Like, he's going to go in there and fight Kevin Holland. I think Kevin Holland beats him, but I think Michael Venom Page will do pretty good in the promotion. I think he'll have some big fights and win some and lose some. Will he be a champion? I think there's like a 30% chance or something like that of him becoming a champion, but he is going to be an exciting addition to that welterweight division. Dylan, what are your thoughts on MVP? Is he just too old and he's just going to get washed out?
I mean, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I think he's got to just sort of fight this level of competition at this juncture and sort of figure it out. It's almost like a Chandler situation in a certain regard. I mean, not in as far as like how his Bellator journey played out, but just in the sense of like you're now crossed into the UFC, you need to be kind of diving into like at least a somewhat deep end of the pool here. And I mean, just in the sense of it being an exciting matchup too. I mean, I saw that matchup discussed for, I think there was that post going around a bit where like they had it on like that war room board that like Dana White and those guys have, and like if people weren't sure like what card it was going to be on. So I mean, it's a fight that people have been discussing for a bit, and it clearly has a lot of interest to it. So I mean, I don't know, man. Yeah, it's one of those fights where, it'll also like play into like what kind of fight is Kevin Holland going to decide to, initiate here? Like, because it seems like the grappling is something that he's tried to integrate more into like his training over the fights, but he just has this certain thing. It seems like he just wants to get in these like exciting like dog fights, like that Wonder Boy fight. Like it probably would have behooved him to use the grappling a bit more, but just kind of wanted to indulge that firefight a touch more. It seemed like I feel like he might have to like, try to lean into that grappling a little more with a guy like MVP, because if he tries to approach it like how he did the Wonder Boy fight, I mean, MVP could get one of those highlight reel stoppages. So yeah, just kind of interesting. It'll be curious to see like what Holland's approach to that one is.
Yeah, he's 36 years old, entering that welterweight division. It's now or never for MVP. His only two losses are to Logan Storley and Douglas Lima, but he's taken out everybody else, man, that he's faced, and he's done really well for them.
I just want to be that guy, and I want to say that more recent fight with Douglas Lima, that is a split decision his way. I am advocating that it should have went the other. Just wanted to say. So with that being said, I don't think I want to double on to what Dylan said, that I don't think Kevin Holland is exactly the type of fighter or the ideal type of fighter to hand MVP his first loss. He might stay around in the striking department too long, but there's a laundry list of guys in that division up the ladder that have a more grappling centered style. And if I think I don't really think he goes. I think he might give us some good fights, but no run at the title, no chance.
We will see though, but I'm not like 100% believer that like he has a lot of things against him. You got age. We just talked about Colby. He's 35. Just fought for the title. You know what I mean? Third time is not the charm for Colby Covington, right? And he's he was the interim champ. Colby will go down as probably one of the most. It's hard to say, you know what I mean? Like he's not like a top 10 welterweight of all time. I don't think. You know what I mean? You got to look at.
Is he becoming the new Chael Sonnen?
I don't know if he's becoming the new Chael Sonnen.
I saw someone compare him to Josh Koscheck.
That's interesting.
I thought that was an interesting comparison, just even like localized to welterweight as well, because I mean, yeah, you look at it and he had like a crack at the welterweight title. He clearly got to like a certain level in the game. Like a lot of his big statement wins are guys that were like maybe aging a touch out of their prime. Like there was certain parallels. I wish I could credit the certain person that I saw post this on the former Twitter, now X, I guess. But yeah, it was an interesting thought, and I thought it was a pretty apt comparison in a couple regards.
Definitely. Hey, that was the last event for 2023. Always an incredible year. It seems like every year always flies by, and we just like end up in December at the last show. But yeah, man, it's just not the UFC. Next year it's going to be, you got the UFC rolling strong. You got PFL, Bellator combining forces. We're going to be able to see like how that plays out. And One Championship looks like they're getting further into other regions of the world. They just signed a deal with Sky Sports. And and they got the Apprentice, and the Muay Thai is going real good. So we'll see what happens with them. BKFCs, we'll see what kind of shenanigans they get into in 2024. But yeah, combat sports is it's full and alive, and
a little fight circus.
Yeah,
Fight Circus. Fight Circus.
I heard Fight Circus, they're gonna have more events, like more frequent events. We'll see if that happens. But yeah, shout out to Fight Circus. I know those boys.
Awesome.
I've been around them a few times, and hanging out with them and stuff like that. But yeah, it's always fun. Appreciate you guys for coming on, and we will see. We will see what's up for next year. But you guys got a couple of weeks off, and back at it early next year.
I'm gonna steal the mic for a second, and I want to say thanks to John. John, you're a stud. You work real hard. You get shit tons of interviews. We all benefit from the knowledge you harvest from us straight from the source. Give us good content. You always continue to evolve and bring us other stuff, my man. And I'm not speaking on a guy who got to know you personally as a friend, but more I'm speaking like for all the people that I get to talk to week after week, watching the fights, people who adore your work, my friend. I'm sharing a message from the fans, your fans, to you. Bro, you do good stuff, and we thank you.
All right, man. Thanks. Dylan, you got anything to say before we take off?
Not anything in particular. I mean, I would, echo the sentiment that, was just said there. Definitely agree with that. And it's been great getting to, hop on this show for the last couple weeks. And yeah, no, it's fun getting to just, discuss like the last couple stories breaking from, this calendar year and stuff like that. And like you said, a great 2024 to look forward to and should be exciting.
There you go, man. I appreciate everybody that was watching. We'll probably have some little tweaks to the channel in the next couple of weeks. You guys will find out, and we'll be back. So take care, and make sure you guys download the app and stay up to date on everything: MMA, combat sports, NBA, NFL, cricket, whatever you watch, whatever sports you love.